Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We are, of course, a Blue Wire podcast. Joining me today, KCRA 3's Sean Cunningham. What's going on, Sean?
Oh, not much. Like I was feeling pretty fantastic coming into today, and I'm looking around the room, and I don't see our friend Brenden anywhere. Where could Brenden be? I'm lucky enough to see you though, buddy.
Where's Brenden? Brenden had a family thing he had already committed to, and we have a very small window that we could jump in and do a podcast. Sean, the Sacramento Kings are I don't know how else to describe this.
DeMar DeRozan had a phrase for it for last year, I
Well,
think.
they're a
through
shit show. Yeah.
yeah, uh, yeah,
I
they
don't
sure are.
yeah, I don't know how else to describe what's happening here. I think the frustration level for Kings fans is through the roof. The team has now lost 8 in a row. They look listless. They lost by over 40 last night to a absolutely horrific Memphis Grizzlies team that was also missing Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark and name that other guy that they were missing. They had a whole roster full of people missing. But the Kings just came out and didn't play well and didn't look like they gave a damn.
They didn't play well, James. That's one way to put it. Um, there's a lot of adjectives that you can describe. I think, you know, before the road trip, Doug Christie was calling out competitive spirit, and we talked about this in the last podcast. But I don't think I've seen much to be encouraged by. I know Doug really felt the need to call out what he thought was a positive in the first quarter of the Thunder of the game against the Thunder in OKC this past week before the debacle that was Memphis. And I got to be honest with you, like you're just kind of left speechless, because if it's one thing to have embarrassing efforts, and I think at this point wins and losses don't really matter. I've seen bad teams go. I mean, look, they just to get to the Memphis thing, it's embarrassing. It's disgusting. You went out. That was a team you would have thought that the Memphis Grizzlies, if I just pulled somebody off the street who wasn't an NBA fan at all, I'm gonna say, hey, watch this basketball team. Tell me what you think. They'd probably think the Memphis Grizzlies were an NBA championship quality team without those players that you mentioned that didn't play. And they had 4 wins on the season, which chokes me up, because that's incredible to see the way they shared the basketball. They gave a damn. They played with pride. But you know what they really played with, James? They played with purpose, and they found joy. And those are 2 things that, outside of maybe the Milwaukee game and maybe briefly in stretches, and I think I'm being kind even by saying that, I just don't think I've seen that at all. And this thing continues to get worse. I think Doug Christie, if he hasn't already, is on the verge of losing the locker room. I think it's probably already there, to be pretty frank, with players that I have spoken to on this roster. And that was before Memphis. So I can't paint a rosy picture. I think everybody has the right to feel what they want to feel. This is surprising to me, because I thought they'd be somewhat competitive. I didn't think they'd be any good, but I thought they'd be a competitive basketball product capable of winning any night in the NBA. And it's not just that they're losing, James. They're getting their teeth kicked in. They're getting curb stomped. They are getting obliterated. The average margin of loss, I looked it up and I've already forgotten. I mean, in these last few games, in this losing skid alone, we're talking 8 straight games. Good grief.
Good grief, Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. Except for I have to watch this team just like you do. And I mean, I get the fan frustration. The fan frustration is off the charts. I just did a radio show and Damian Barling, was all over ownership and management. He thinks very clearly that they've set up Doug Christie to fail and that they've, again, sort of undervalued what Doug Christie means to the community. and what that will look like when they do eventually terminate Doug, which, it looks like it could happen sooner rather than later. Hopefully it doesn't happen, because, I'm a big Doug Christie guy. But at the same time, you talked about losing the locker room. This is one of the few times, Sean, where I kind of feel like the locker room lost itself. And I hate to be so blunt, but a few of these guys can go straight to hell.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah. I get it.
you're a quitter. That's what you are. And if you don't like that, you don't want to be called a quitter, then don't quit. Like,
Yeah,
and I've heard people go, "Do you think there's any way Doug Christie would just step down because this is so bad?" It's like, no, because Doug Christie's not a quitter. He has
yeah,
some players that are quitters, and some players on this team have got to go. Like, this is the first time I've felt like a franchise will choose players not because, well, we'll choose players to go rather than a coach. And it's not because I think they believe in Doug Christie, because I think that there's still some room, some questions about that, about whether you believe in Doug Christie, whether he's going to be the head coach of this team for the next, 2 years or 5 years or 6 months. I think there are still questions. But to be honest with you, there aren't any more questions left with these players. Like, this group, nope, you don't got it, man. Not only
yeah.
do you not have it, but you routinely show up. You show everybody that you've quit, that you don't care enough to go and handle business. And I watched the OKC game that Doug talked about the first quarter. I thought they fought. I thought they fought the entire game against OKC. They just weren't talented enough to beat the best team in basketball, who's what, 15-1, and probably heading towards a 70-win season and a second straight NBA championship. That's
And
okay to lose to that team.
and 3 of those are against the Kings, so
Well,
you
of
don't get to see
course.
the Thunder anymore.
Yeah, you don't get to see the Thunder. You're almost out of games against Minnesota, and you're almost out of games against Denver. All of those are really good teams. Like, look, the schedule's been bad, and even playing on the second night of a back to back against a bad Memphis team, I don't care. That team is in shambles, and your team is even worse. But I, I do think that there's this moment here that's coming where some of these players just have to go. If they would have played with the same intensity that they played on Wednesday night when they played against OKC, they would have beat the Memphis Grizzlies by 10 to 15 points.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They came out and just quit. And that's just, to me, it's sad to see a team quit, and we can say, hey, whether you've lost the locker room or what, yeah, okay. We can
Well,
say
and
that.
it's funny. It's because in the whole pie, which I will call the concoction of suck,
Yeah, okay.
pause for effect because that was
Pause.
funny.
Yeah.
Uh, concoction of suck. Losing the locker room is a byproduct of a lot of the things that are just going on. And the overwhelming thing, I can't point at coaching. I can't point at ownership. I can't look. We all knew what this year was. Um, it's a necessary holdover year, but I don't think anybody, even the players included, players, coaches, organization, ownership, fans, media, nobody could have predicted this because this is an absolute quit. It's like tanking without doing it on purpose. Like I don't think you could go out there and purposely try to lose worse than what you're already losing. The lack of just the lack of cohesiveness, James, it's everything. It's you couldn't blame that on defense, you couldn't blame that on offense, you couldn't blame that on turnovers. It all derives from a competitive spirit, and I don't know how it's gotten as bad as it has. I think everybody has an opinion and can form it, and I think much to your point, whether a fan or a media member is going to point at Doug Christie or DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine or Vivek Ranadive or Scott Perry or whoever you want to do. If you want to go back further and point to Pete D'Alessandro, where things really weren't good. I mean, Pete's driving around in his car, just took a stray from me, but
He
it
deserves it.
doesn't
It's fine. Go ahead.
right. It
Strays
doesn't
welcome.
it honestly doesn't matter at this point because they almost have to save themselves from themselves. And look, to the point of Doug Christie, like I don't I think you mentioned something about like the community knows what Doug Christie is. They set him up to fail, I think, is something I saw on social media. Doug Christie signed up for this. This is Doug Christie, to James's point earlier, and what we were talking about, has so much pride in how he carries himself. We've talked about how this is probably the only opportunity he would get as a head coach. So he took that with open arms, practically doing it for free by NBA coaching salary standpoint. And it's like an internship in a way. Like, show people you can coach, show people what you're capable of. Doug Christie's not quitting. Doug Christie wants to not only be a head coach, he wants to be a head coach in Sacramento and take this team to where it is. I've been critical of Doug. James has too. Doug is not perfect. This team is obviously far from perfect to themselves, but I think one of the biggest things that stick out when I think of Doug Christie and maybe his downfall with this team is not finding continuity. And it doesn't matter if we're talking continuity that works or doesn't. We're talking about just sticking with something for 5 games, 10 games, whatever it might be, to really put together some sort of evaluation. Now, the cynic will say we've seen enough. I mean, this team is garbage. But sometimes the byproduct of that can be people bailing on you, right? I can also say, to the point of having an identity that you want, and I alluded to this in the last podcast, but is far from what you are currently. And I think that is a big ingredient in the concoction of suck, because having something to where it's like, James, you may, with respect, your house is beautiful, your property is beautiful, right? You are someone who understands what they have around them, right? I could not compare my living situation to your household. Your household might be what I aspire to have, but it isn't currently what I live in today, right? And to play in a fantasy world, to say where this is the expectation, sure, set that bar, have something to strive to, but it's not what you are. You're not there yet. So you have to first, before you get to that and strive for something, you have to deal with what you currently have. And I think that is another key ingredient in the concoction of suck. So, long-winded way of just saying, I don't know where you start. I think there's a ton of mounting pressure on Scott Perry and Vivek Ranadive that they didn't anticipate. I think that pressure is, I think that would be an interesting debate there, James. I don't know who feels more pressure. Do those two gentlemen feel more pressure than what Doug Christie is currently feeling? Doug Christie doesn't make anything. There is a genuine curiosity and support that Doug Christie had coming into this head coaching situation to see if he could do it. It's not like it was a pass. It's not like, all right, we won't truly get to judge Scott Perry and who he hires by leaving this little exception for Doug just to finish out and do whatever happens, and then he'll go get his guy. No, he hitched himself to the Doug Christie wagon. Doug Christie could have still been on the coaching staff and not been a head coach. He was given the opportunity. It's just been really bad. And I don't think, with fairness, I get the part that mounting pressure is on Doug, but I think that's maybe where you can help give your opinion on, because I don't know who feels more pressure, Scott Perry / Vivek Ranadive or Doug Christie.
Well, I think in the moment, Doug is feeling it because he's the one who's out in front of it, right? And head coaches, that's the job, is to be out in front of it. But I do feel like there comes a point where I don't even want to, we can bring Scott Perry into the discussion, but realistically, like, how many times you get it wrong if you're Vivek Ranadive? And I guess I know this is a horrible answer that Kings fans are going to listen to and just groan. He gets to get it wrong as many times as he wants to get it wrong,
Yep.
because there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Can't fire an owner.
Can't fire an owner, but I guess what you can do is you can stop showing up. You can stop paying ticket prices that are obscene. But again, this is your team. Like, to go back to when Vivek was able to buy this team, he said, "This is your team." It is your team. And the thing is, like, if you want to stop going to games, like, just so you know, your team, the people that work for your team will start losing their jobs. And it's not like it's going to impact Vivek Ranadive all that much. He bought the team for a valuation of like 560, what was it, 535 million, I think it was. and now it's worth over $5 billion. So he's made 10 times his money. Just so people know, he did not put in a ton of money in the beginning. He wasn't a primary, like he has control of the team, but he owns like 15%, maybe a little bit more now after like scooping up some of these guys who have quit. But the fact is, he's made so much money off of this. Like, why would he turn away from it? Like, because he's embarrassed because fans at him on Twitter? Like, no, that's not going to happen. And my problem, it does always come back to this. Like, learn from your mistakes. Like, that's life. It's basics to life. Learn from your mistakes, get better, improve, show that you're figuring it out. And I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that from ownership. And so while I think Scott Perry, again, has really nothing, not a whole lot to do with the roster, like, yeah, trading Jonas Valanciunas is looking like an absolutely ridiculously bad move for Dario Saric, who's not an NBA player. And the money you saved, the $5 million you saved, you gave like a good percentage of that to Drew Eubanks. That's not an efficient way to fix this thing. The other money you gave to Precious Achua or whoever you want to say that they gave it to at the back end of the bench. And the fact is, like, Jonas Valanciunas is a better player than those guys. He's just a better player, and you should have just held on to him. And now you wouldn't be in a situation where you're going to miss Domantas Sabonis for 3 to 4 weeks at a minimum with a partial tear of his left meniscus, and you're running Drew Eubanks and Precious and Maxime Reynaud, who doesn't know what he's doing in the NBA yet. That's who you're running out there. So yeah, it's Scott Perry's decision to sign Dennis Schroeder. Scott Perry's decision to not only sign Russell Westbrook, but to wait till the end of training camp to sign Russell Westbrook instead of getting him earlier, to wait till the end of training camp to sign Precious Achua, or wait until the season had begun and to sign Precious Achua. Like, these are decisions that have been made here. And for me, I think Scott's under a little bit of pressure because I don't think anyone thought it would be this bad. But we all know that it doesn't really start. His clock doesn't really start until he fires a coach and then hires another one, and then it really starts. So I do think that Doug is feeling it because he's out in front of it, and then Vivek is feeling it because I think there's going to be a pretty solid movement here in Sacramento to boycott Kings games until he's gone. And I hate to tell people this, he's not leaving. He's not. So um, that's where I get back to, this is your team. So be vocal, like, do what you got to do as fans, but at the same time, just know that, those players, they're playing for you. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad, but still, this is your team. And if you choose to be a fan of it still, you got to kind of roll with the punches here until things get better, whenever that is.
Yeah. That I'm surprised at the boycott of the team thing, but I get it. I mean, I get it if someone wants to go that far and to do that, um, realizing that it's tough because they're going to have competitive ticket prices. They're going to think this organization is going to realize where they're at and try to bring their prices down. But what does that mean for your season ticket holders who've already invested, right? I mean, that makes it difficult to navigate, and I think those are the ones that are the people that spend the most money with their fan base. So they're the ones that are going to speak louder. It's just tough right now. And to your point about Vivek, like I think the whole saving of the team thing, it certainly buys grace, but at the end of the day, I think Vivek still wants to be held to account for the success of his team, but to a degree, to that end, he's doesn't make himself available to speak to the media or to be held to that account. So that is that's tough. That's tough. But to your point, he can't go anywhere. Like, it's not like there's short of him selling, stepping down. I just don't think that's going to be in any realm of possibility. So this is the bed you have to sleep in for now if you're a Kings fan. And if you're stepping away, sure, I get it. There is a thing called thick and thin. You've been through thin for a very, very long time. I'm curious to see how things shake out, because There's no real move this season that can be done to, in my mind, change the success or the fortunes of this team right now. But it might be able to put you into some sort of mind space where you can see what's the vision for the future. And obviously, make no mistake, I think Scott Perry has autonomy, but it still has the umbrella of Vivek Ranadive. So, long-winded way of saying, you get to a point where there's success, Vivek Ranadive is still going to be a part of that. So I just think it's a kind of a silly mechanism to, you can have anger and emotions and all those things towards an owner or a GM or a coach. A lot of those things are replaceable. An owner really isn't. So that's just a hard one for me to reconcile. If I'm choosing to root for a team, get to a point where you don't like an owner. Think of like the Dallas Cowboys, for example, and they've been Drek in the NFL forever. Maybe this is that version, and certainly there's been missteps along the way. But I just don't know how you get to that point. And then if you go to celebrate the good times again, which seemed really, really good, and you talk about the good times, and it was a third in the West and a first round playoff exit in 7 games to a dynasty, it's tough. So
Yeah, a broken watch is right twice a day, Sean.
yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, I would love to compare them to the Dallas Cowboys, but the Dallas Cowboys have had some success, even if
Yeah.
it's not winning a championship since like 1996 or whatever it is. This is more Las Vegas / Oakland Raiders. That's what this is. It's turning into that. It's turning into, again, like we can sit here and dissect what exactly happened, but I think we can all like be honest and say the turning point in this current iteration of the Kings, this build up that you got to 48 wins, and then you had a little bit of a down next season at 46, but how we got to 40 and then today, it's the miscalculations of ownership that have hurt this product as much as anything. Again, like the Zach LaVine thing, like you can't look much further than ownership on that. Like the trade that sent De'Aaron Fox out, you can't look further than ownership. Ownership had already made their mind up to jettison your front office. Those guys were already on borrowed
Yeah.
time. They knew that. So you're, as an owner, made the decision to not only trade De'Aaron Fox, but to trade De'Aaron Fox and bring back the contract of Zach LaVine. Love him, hate him, the contract is an albatross on this franchise for this season and next season. And that was an ownership decision. And so, like, look, there are a lot of things we can do here and point fingers at, like Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox. They made mistakes. They did. Like sitting on your hands and watching two like trade deadlines go by and doing nothing when your team desperately needed something to put you over the top. That's on them. Going out in an offseason and coming away with Chris Duarte, and that was it. Like that's on you as a front office. But the decisions that have been made after that just really feel like miscalculations of somebody who is not really understanding the dynamics of basketball, that it's a team sport, that it requires fit more than it requires almost anything else. The fact that this team doesn't have size and athleticism, that they don't have length, that they don't have enough players to play defense or shoot 3-point shots, like this was not avoidable. This record right here, it was not avoidable coming into this season. This is a team you built. The team that you built had structural issues that were not going to survive at like any way possible. And this is what you get. This is where
Well,
you
and
are.
yeah, and you're right in terms of the layout and the history of everything like that. And obviously, the person at the top is Vivek Ranadive. I don't want to sound like an apologist for him or even defend him, but in fairness to him, like this team has quit. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't blame an owner for the lack of competitive spirit. You can't blame an owner for a team absolutely mailing it in. An owner can step in and try to rectify that for certain, but that's on the players, that's on the coaching staff. I think that's more on the front office as well, maybe in the environment that they've put in there. So maybe, Vivek Ranadive a little bit in there because he obviously has a say. But my point is bigger than that. Like if you're looking in the now, again, if you're looking in the now, you can't blame others for competitive spirit. Like there's no pride with this team. There's no joy in this team. Like if it's a bad basketball product to watch for fans and media and them, imagine what it's. There's no joy in that in amongst this team. There's just no when they're basketball's supposed to be fun. They don't look like they're having fun when they're playing basketball.
No, but I think my point would be that you have over $70 million in contracts tied up to players that your
Totally
owner rubber stamped, and not only rubber stamped, but went out and promoted you to get.
right.
So look, nobody's clean in this situation, and I'll be
Nobody. No,
honest
no,
with
no.
you. I'll be honest with you right now. If Vivek Ranadive decided to go into the locker room and have like a pep talk, he'd probably get booed out of the locker room.
Well,
Like they're not going to listen to Vivek Ranadive any more than they're going to listen to at this point to what Doug Christie's message is.
yeah.
And
I also
and
don't
even
think
left.
that
So
would, even if things were good, I still think that would get kind of, snickered at anyway. I don't think that would land anyway. But um, look, there's a yeah, things are bad, James. They're just bad, and there's no magic 8 ball. It's kind of funny. I was on the radio earlier this week, and we were talking about like people have to realize like this isn't baseball. You can't just do a fire sale. You know, contractually, it's hard to make a move. It's hard to make moves,
yeah.
and so a lot of these things are going to be tough to pull off. It's gonna fall on their shoulders. It's gonna be their responsibility to try to make things work. But what I think is going to be interesting to see is what the knee jerk is. What is the knee jerk reaction? What do they jump into something that maybe cooler heads prevail? Like, is this going to make them jump into a rash decision? And you hope that they have the wherewithal and the patience to be able to find that right move and not go, okay, I got to do something. This is going to be it, and really set this franchise behind. Because the one thing it's not behind, and like it sucks right now, but you still have draft capital. If you sacrifice that draft capital for something that doesn't work, then you're screwed.
So what Sean is saying, I'm just gonna read the tea leaves. If John Morant or Trey Young or LaMelo Ball become available, which, to be honest, all three are probably available right now, even if the Memphis Grizzlies say that John Morant is not. But the other two definitely are available. Like, that's a Band-Aid solution. Tell me how, again, a guy like LaMelo Ball is supposed to walk into your locker room and take control of the situation and be the voice of reason, the voice of culture in your locker room.
Yeah.
That's
You
not
know,
happening.
no, and that's what's crazy about that is like you look at just the long term you look at the long term future. Not even long term, like just beyond 27, maybe just go to 28. The thing that's the worst about the Kings right now is there's nobody you can really build around. And what I mean with respect to somebody like Keegan Murray, who they just extended, and he's likely going to be a part of the future unless they trade him at a later date. My point is you don't have a pillar. Keegan Murray is more of a piece, but you don't have that guy. Like you look at the Mavericks, like for as bad as it is over there, and it's really bad. I'd almost argue it's worse. The only thing that I will give it is they have Cooper Flag. They literally struck gold in the draft and have some sort of beacon that they can now build around. Who would that be for Sacramento?
It's nobody. I mean, you look
Nobody.
at the New Orleans Pelicans, and while they have made some egregious mistakes, like again, they're one of the worst teams in basketball right now, and they don't have their first round pick this coming year because they gave an unprotected first round pick to move up in the draft to draft Derek Queen,
Wild.
right?
Yep.
Like so, but I'm gonna be honest with you. At least they have Fears and they have Queen and they have Murphy and they have like again, why am I drawing a blank on well, they have Eves Misi. They've got why
And you're
who
trying to stay away from some of the veterans. But I
yeah,
mean,
but
and to your credit, like Derek Queen has looked pretty good. Now, I not anything to where I would give away that, but yeah, it's wild. I mean, even if you're the Clippers right now, think of like you're the Clippers, like especially knowing what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander now means to an NBA title team and the Thunder, who's probably going to be a type of dynasty going forward. Um, and then you look around at your collection of players and you just go, "What? Like, who am I building around? Who do I have here? These are going to be a bunch of nobodies in 2 to 3 years, if not already."
And
And
you do know that their first round pick this year goes to OKC
OKC, so
as part of the trade from years ago. Yeah.
right. And look, there's a lot of luck that goes into this, but bottom line is you don't have a guy. De'Aaron Fox, for whatever reason, take away whether you think what they got in the trade, at least he was your guy. That was the guy that you were choosing to build around. And you bring in Domantas Sabonis as another, force that to have two people to build around to see what that is. It
Two
ran its
players that were
course.
considered top 20 in the NBA.
Yeah, all NBA players at one point. And you traded them. And you traded a future piece in Tyrese Halliburton to make that happen. At least you can see why, if your fan base turns on you, rightfully so, you have nothing to believe in right now. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can believe in beyond, and right now, no one's believing in anything. I mean, you're maybe maybe the beacon of hope is Scott Perry, but to the point of the people who are turning their their venom towards Vivek Ranadive, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Again, I say that in the sense of Scott can go do whatever he wants to do with this roster. It's still going to be looked at and monitored by Vivek Ranadive. And that's
Mhm.
not exclusive to Sacramento. That happens in every market, every professional team, just about. So if you're going to be a fan of the Sacramento Kings, that's your guy.
This is it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's a frustrating thing. I would say one of the bigger disappointments for me watching the game last night, very specifically, the loss to Memphis, is that late in the game, first of all, did the veterans leave the bench? Because it sure did look like the bench was nobody but a couple of assistant coaches at the end of the game, which I found to
Yeah.
be weird and jarring. I don't know exactly what happened there, but one of my biggest concerns is you watch this lame ass hero ball, which is the most uh,
Yeah.
disgusting basketball to watch there ever was. I hate watching hero ball. It's not at all what I was expecting this team to be. And here you got it. You got one guy taking turns and then the next guy. And now it's one game where guys are good and next game where they don't show up at all. And you're just like, what in the world? Like Zach LaVine goes 16 points combined over 2 games. And then last night he goes for 26. But the guy who was rolling was Dennis Schroeder. And he goes from being like this really nice secondary guy off, guy off the bench who's giving you a bunch of punch, and he goes 0 for 8. And you're looking around like Malik Monk is good one night, the next night, like last night, what he score? Like 2 or 3 points? Like, where are these guys? But my concern was that when Doug Christie finally pulled the plug on this horrific thing that he was watching, and he just went with the young guys, they played the same damn ball. It was the
Yeah,
same
well,
crap. It was like, man, at
James,
least
there's
show
no
me that you guys know what you're supposed to do and that you're not going to follow the bad leadership that you just watched get benched and yanked off the court and just got you to your eighth loss in a row. Show me that you're going to go play the style of basketball that your coach is asking to play. And then I watch the second unit do the same BS. Like, or the third unit, whatever you want to call them, like go out there and hero ball, guys in wrong positions, guys running across under the basket and going to a corner only to go stand right next to one of their teammates that's already in the corner and that guy hasn't moved out. You're just like, what is
they don't
happening?
they don't run anything. And again, and that's so it's like it's not like, hey, the veterans have set a bad example for the rookies, as Doug was alluding to before when he was talking about competitive spirit. That's for competitive spirit, and he's entirely right about that. But make no mistake, bad offense, not running, not moving the ball, not running any sort of set, that's not a bad habit. That's coaching. And
Yeah.
it's only amplified when you see your young players come in and do the same damn thing. So that's just tough. I mean, that is tough. I think the based, if I'm to believe what Doug Christie has told us, which is I don't give a damn about offense. It starts defensively. Well, offense makes up half of the game, sometimes more than half, because good defense leads to great offense,
And bad
and we're bad
offense
at both.
leads to really bad defense.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think this is where you start to see that separation. As to I can't speak to it. I didn't see that moment. If it's out there, um, maybe you can show me something on social media that was there. I didn't see that moment. If anybody left the bench, but I also don't give a damn. Like, like they weren't. Hey, that's gross. It's
They
absolutely
quit
gross.
on the floor. They might as well quit and just go
Right.
ahead and
Right.
head back.
Show you're not together. Honestly, if they went out and back and fought, like that would give me more, like this team looks like they need to fight in the worst way, because at least that would show some competitive spirit. Um I don't know what you do. I really don't. I mean, they got Denver coming up. They got, Minnesota game. I'm actually not going to be at the Monday night game because of 49ers. But
What?
I know. I will not see you and crowd your space on press row there. But I'm also
Good for
curious
you.
to see. I'm also curious to see who else might not be there. Yeah, it's the things that they can control are what's not being controlled. And as an athlete, they always talk about the day to day. You don't look down the road. It's all about the day to day. It's all control what you can control. And all these things are being really pissed away. To your point about the offense too, James, like I think this was the game that finally broke me when it came to what they do offensively, because they take so many bad shots. I mean, it was funny hearing Katie a few times in the broadcast. Zach actually hit a couple of them, of these really crazy fall away mid range, reverse pivot, crazy shot, well contested. And she's like, man, that was a tough shot. And he made a couple of them, but it's like, why are you even taking that shot? Like, look, you see a team that does that, and then you look at a 4-win team in Memphis that just slaughtered you, and you look at the way they move the basketball, James. and that, and that's not even a veteran team, man. You've got veterans that, so it's
You had a bunch of dudes who don't play. I mean, you literally got your ass kicked by Jock Landale.
Yeah.
Like, really? You just got your ass kicked by that dude. Like Gigi Jackson came in. Gigi Jackson hasn't played at all for them this season. He's literally just been lost in the shuffle. Comes in and just punks you.
Honestly, let's say you're a rival executive, right? And I'm not using Memphis as an example. The game, I mean, everyone tends to overreact to one game, one of 82, but it's not one of 82, because you have an 8-game losing streak that all kind of look the same. And
where you've lost by between 30 and 40 on a high percentage of them. Yeah.
To that point, knowing that you're not going to really be able to get Keegan Murray, outside of interest in Keon Ellis and maybe one or two other guys, why would you want any of them?
No, it's a good question. I mean,
why would you
honestly,
even answer the phone? Why would you even answer the phone from Sacramento?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I'm not giving up anything to make a move. I think there are other teams in the league right now who expected to be better and might look at the Kings as like, okay, we might be able to fix that guy and get him into our system, or we've got an offense that can withstand that, or an offense that supports that type of player. But I think you're right. I don't think anyone's calling for a bunch of these players. And, to make matters worse, the Domantas Sabonis injury, we're talking 3 to 4 weeks before reevaluation. I don't think we know yet if he's going to have his knee scoped, or if he's just going to rest and try to have the slightly torn meniscus and his partially torn meniscus just heal on its own. But this is like, I think at least there was something for Kings fans to look forward to, and that was Keegan Murray returning. And he returns, and as he returns, Domantas Sabonis checks out for a month, and you're like, oh, Jesus. Like they cannot catch a break. They literally can't when it comes to injuries. And I don't know what to say about that, but I do know that it just took Domantas Sabonis and put him on the shelf where no one's trading for him right now either. Like, you're not going to take on a guy who all of a sudden, makes 40 something million bucks and has a knee issue, and you're worried about whether he's going to be out, 4 weeks or 6 weeks, or, like what it looks like. And so it just puts the Kings behind another 8 ball that they didn't need to be behind. And it exposes, once again, there are 2 players on this team they could not afford to lose. 2 players. And they lost both of them. One for the first 14 games and now one for the next 15 games. Like, it's just brutal to watch.
Yeah. And it's funny because you'd mentioned the Valanciunas thing earlier. Trading him to Denver and getting the return that you got and realizing what the money, to me, let's not forget, he wanted to go back to Europe. And honestly, that would have been better. Like, that would have been better.
Why didn't they just let him go back to Europe?
Just let him go back to Europe.
I don't understand that at all, because it was basically holding up the trade.
Yeah.
Like, you could have, unless he wanted the money and to go back to Europe, and that wasn't going to happen. But I would have rather given him, say, $2 or $3 million and said, okay, we'll just buy you out for this. Go ahead and go, than taking on Dario Saric's 5 point whatever million bucks. And again, they might be able to trade Dario. He might be able to be part of a bigger package down the road. But the fact is, he's not playing, and he's not going to play at all. Like, he hasn't played since the first couple of games of the season. It's like him and Doug McDermott just hanging out, and it's really rough to watch those guys who, they're looking around saying, hey, I might be able to help this team. The answer is they probably can't, but especially not where it's at right now. But hey, I'm ready to start sending guys home. Like, go ahead and just go home and sit, and we'll call you if a trade comes up. If it doesn't, you can expire at the end of the year. You can expire at the end of next year. I don't care at this point. If you're not going to play basketball hard, and you're not going to come out here and do the right things and set examples for the young players, then leave.
Well, actually, what's worse, to me, what's worse than that, James, what's bigger than that is just sit them on the bench and don't play them. Let them have to dress every single day and sit there and wear it.
No, that's true. And then have them be the ones that get embarrassed when you're down by, 30 going into the fourth quarter. It's like, hey, you guys go ahead and get warmed up. It's time to go in. Yeah, because I don't know how else to fix this, but I do know that, like, one of the few things that you have at your disposal if you're an NBA head coach or a coach at any level is that your expectations are that people want to play basketball or they want to play whatever sport. And the one thing you can't take away from them is their ability to do that. And for right now, watching, some of these guys get 15 minutes last night, or, 12 minutes the night before, or not playing in the fourth quarter, whatever it might be, I do think that Doug is trying to use whatever leverage he has and say, look, if this is who you are tonight or in general, then you can go ahead and sit over there, or you can go ahead and just hang out, because I'm going to go a different direction, and I'm going to give people an opportunity who are actually trying. And we're to a point already. It's time to let Neat Clifford play. It's time, again, Keegan Murray didn't start in his first game. He'll start from here on out. Like, the plan is not to move Keegan Murray to the bench. The plan is for him to slide right back into the starting power forward or starting small forward spot, and just kind of roll with it. But from here on out, my focus as a franchise has to be, like, understanding what I have in Keegan Murray, like figuring out if Neat Clifford can play, figuring out if Maxime Reynaud is going to be a ball player down the road, even if it's, 10, 12 minutes a night, just getting him more and more acclimated to the league. And then, like, testing out and seeing if Keon Ellis is a starting level shooting guard, and see what it looks like for a bunch of games, because you're just wasting your time with the other stuff. You're just wasting your time. And not only that, but like, I've said this since they basically brought him in. I was always hoping there would be this handoff from DeMar DeRozan to Keegan Murray, where, DeMar let Keegan Murray have an extra 4 or 5 shots a game. That never happened, and it probably isn't going to happen. And if that's the case, then one of those guys gets to play and the other one doesn't, because one of those guys just signed a 5-year extension, is under contract for 6 years, and the other one isn't. And I need to know what he is. And I got to be honest, I think that Neat Clifford gives Keegan Murray an opportunity to succeed where DeMar DeRozan doesn't.
Well,
And
yeah, Neek doesn't take shots.
well,
Neek
but I
doesn't take
also,
shots at all.
and I'm not saying that Nick Clifford's a better player than DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar DeRozan's a better player, but that's not what this is about now. It's about trying to figure out how to maximize a guy like Keegan Murray. So you do have some sort of future after this season and after next season. Because as of right now, you got nothing to sort of pin your hopes to. And the one thing you do is the Keegan Murray potential and the Nick Clifford opportunity. Like, who are these guys, and can they be, a starting 2-3 combo in the league? Can they be your 3 and 4 long term? I don't know, but I need to know that more than I need to know what these other guys are, because I know what they are, and I know what the last couple of games have looked like. And you're going to lose by 40. You might as well lose by 40 with young players, not with guys who just threw their jersey on the floor and embarrassed your franchise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to that point too, I think the one thing that's really consistent in this streak, for the most part, is DeRozan has not been good. I mean, outside of like the Spurs game where scoring was there, I think he was very efficient. Scoring just hasn't. I mean, he's just been bad. He's been awful, to say the least. And so, if you go back, the best game they've played all year, I think we could all agree, was probably the Bucks game. He was really, really good in that game. But this is like, to me, I always come off as a DeMar DeRozan apologist. I don't mean to sound that way, but if he's on your team, you got to play to his strengths. At this point of the season, like where you already are, I think you're at that point where even if he's starting and if he's giving you something, to James's point, fantastic. But what he did the other night, would he take how many shots?
3 last
3?
night? 3.
Like, what are you doing on the floor at that point? Like, that goes for Zach LaVine too. Like, we've had moments. I went on Kings pregame and pounded the table at the last right before it was the Minnesota game, and it was coming off of the game. I forget who they played before that. Was that the Thunder here at home? I said, shoot the ball. Like, James, we talked about it before the season. Zach LaVine has a neon green light to just chuck. Go be that guy.
Yeah.
How are you not shooting the ball? If either one of those two players are on your team and they're not shooting, they're worthless. They are absolutely worthless. So if that is where it's gotten to, yeah, don't even play them. I mean, I know like that's an extreme at the moment, but
Is it?
Even the fact that it's entering my consciousness, it means that it's it's getting there, right? It's getting there. And I'm to that point where it's like, I agree with you. If you have something going, great. Let's see how it goes. But to your point, like those guys, Keegan, Neek, I do not need to see DeMar DeRozan. I'll put Zach a little bit aside to that because Zach could very well still be in the future of this team going forward. But DeMar DeRozan is not. He does not need to be playing more than 30 minutes a game. That's not good for the Sacramento Kings. That's not good for DeMar DeRozan at his age. And you
I
have
don't think
pieces
he needs to
around him.
play 24
No,
minutes a game.
I know. But you thought that for a while. I get it. I get it. But I'm saying those guys should be able to play bulk minutes. Those two guys, I would throw Keon in that mix as well. This is who you are. This is who your team is, and it's the only thing you can really hope to hang your look. You'll have this opportunity to see if you can turn your fortunes around based off the schedule. I think it's the third easiest schedule going forward, but third easiest schedule for a team that sucks. So this is not a team. Competitive balance, whatever it is, like you have to show level of competition, and if you're not there and you can find it very easy on or very early on, then you make a quick decision and you're going to go with your youth the rest of the way. You're probably going to lose that game, and that's fine. But I would say, much to your point about how they looked offensively against Memphis, they better change that though. If you're going to do that, you better implement something to where this team looks a hell of a lot more joyful, prideful, and cohesive offensively, because we already know what they can't do defensively. But if you're going to put a product together, you better put something together offensively.
Yeah, and let's be honest, losing Domantas Sabonis like takes away any sort of structure they had. I didn't
Yep.
like the structure before with Domas. I did not think that they're running the ball through him enough. And it became just like whoever got the ball after it would cross midcourt was probably who was going to shoot it. But now, like without Domas, you don't even have the ability to run the same type of stuff. There is very, very few DHO opportunities or even the pick and roll stuff. Like I'm watching it, it doesn't matter which of them's doing it, but whether it's Reno or it's Drew Eubanks or it's Precious Achua, they're not good in the pick and roll. They're not good at finishing at the rim. They're just not. And like that's half the turnovers from this team are in pick and roll sets where the guard is throwing the ball at someone's feet or putting it right in the hands of a big man that doesn't know how to catch a pick and roll. And so, like for me, like whatever offense they are running has been pretty ineffective. Okay, let's get to the business of basketball. We've sat here and bitched about the Sacramento Kings team for going on 51 minutes. We do not think highly of what's going on the court. We've used terms like quit. We've used terms like lost the locker room, given up, like a lot of negativity. And I think we're at this point where the only way to fix this thing is to start jettisoning players wherever you can. And Sean, I think that's where I'm going to go. Do you think who do you think is the first to go? And do you think that they're going to be able to move off of one of these bigger contracts, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's Zach Levine, whether it's Domas, and knowing that, like, of course, or even like Malik Monk at 18 million? Do you think that there's a possibility that they're able to break loose here, or is this kind of like this is what it is?
Yeah, I do. I actually do, James, because I still think that there's enough teams in this league that would take an expiring, partially guaranteed for next year deal in DeMar DeRozan. I think he's got enough on his. I think you can find situations that would fit him better. Something like Boston, something potentially like um,
The Clippers.
well, yeah, but that's a really that can be tough to do. But
I
with
don't
their
think so.
constraints, well,
No.
yeah, but you're right. You're not wrong. I just mean like the dollar for dollar thing. I know they have so many restrictions around them being where they're at. Um, they're looking to shed a lot of salary, and this will certainly help for next year. But um, they have aspirations bigger than what they're at right now, and that is a pun intended, by the way. Aspiration. Uncle Dennis, Kawhi
You're
Leonard,
out there
Steve
planting
Ballmer.
trees, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense for him too, personally, with obviously what's going on with his family and being closer to LA. But I think there are situations for him and plenty of healthy situations that he can go to and still contribute at a high level. Maybe not start, but I don't think starting is. I mean, I think that's the biggest misnomer. I don't think starting is all that important to him. It's really just being able to contribute, and so um, that would be an interesting one. I think that's just the one that sticks out the most. But what do you get for him? I honestly think the Clippers might have the most rate of return for Sacramento, to be honest, because you have to match some dollar amounts there. So you might be able to get a piece. I don't know who that is. Maybe it's a big. I think there's I know people have wondered about John Collins and all that kind of stuff, but that would be certainly interesting. But it might help balance out the roster a little bit. You don't need another guard, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that again, I don't think John Collins is gonna be traded. It's possible because I would be looking at John Collins, but um, like there's like a super simple trade that I would look at if I were the Kings and if I were the Clippers, and that would be just DeMar DeRozan for Derek Jones Jr., who's injured,
Right.
and Bogdan Bogdanovic. And to be honest, I think that trade works. Um,
Are both of
and
them under contract for next year? I think Bogey has another year. Yeah.
no, Bogey is a team option at 16 million for next year. Where I
Okay.
do think that that Derek Jones Jr. has one more year. Um, yeah, I mean, actually, the trade would work, and I'm willing to take Derek Jones Jr. at 10 million bucks for next year, versus paying out DeMar DeRozan $10 million just
Certainly.
to be on the roster.
Yeah.
So that's a trade I would look at. Again, if they could pull off a John Collins for DeMar DeRozan, I would do that. And I would slide Keegan Murray directly to the small forward where he's probably better suited. It give you an opportunity to look at John Collins for, 6 months and see if he fits next to Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray in on the front line. And that's something that I would look at. I want to ask one more question based on this business of basketball. Is there any player that you think of like sort of the bigger contracts here with the Kings that you think is salvageable and can be part of what's going to be next? Or do you think it's like, okay, everybody's pretty much got to go at this point?
I haven't thought about that. Because even when you say the term salvageable, like, and I think you've got the numbers in front of you, I don't, but like Zach LaVine comes off the books, and it's such a bloated contract that even if he was to sign a new deal with Sacramento, um, I can't picture that really being a possibility. So I would say no. Sabonis, because of him typically making everyone better around him. But the problem is he's just so hard to build around, and you've had him this long and haven't been able to find the white whale, the unicorn, which is a rim protecting stretch four. And I feel
John
like
Collins.
that's
Go ahead.
well, yeah. If somehow you're able to do that, but John Collins comes with a hell of a dollar amount, and he just signed, or no, he was just how much money is he owed? He's a
This is it. He's 26 million
20,
this year.
yeah.
Yeah, and then he's
I
he's unrestricted free agent this summer.
and yeah, and see, I think that's going to be the tough part too. Is getting someone like DeRozan to the Clippers with the way they're built salary wise. They're not trying to add salary to next year. They're trying to get off money. And so moving players that have effectively a player option that you're going to decline in Bogdanovich and John Collins expiring contract, those aren't the pieces you're giving up for somebody like DeRozan who's still going to be owed $10 million next year.
Yeah, but I think the Clippers are looking to salvage this season. They don't quite
100%.
get what's happening here, and it's possible that adding a 20-point per game score, again, I think that there is another trade there with the Clippers, just like pulling, to take the DeMar DeRozan situation out. Like I think they miss Norman Powell a ton, and
100%.
and I think going out and getting a Zach LaVine would actually make a lot of sense to them, and that's where a John Collins and you can get there with John Collins and with Bogdanovich and maybe like one other throw-in piece. Um, but it's not that far off, right? You could get there and make a trade there. You could also like Bill Simmons 3-team swap where, the Celtics get involved and they get Malik Monk and, DeMar DeRozan goes, no, Zach LaVine goes to the Clippers and the Kings take on Anthony Simons expiring contract, John Collins expiring contract. That like trades like that, I'm like, okay, like if something big like that could work, it's just super complicated. It's a lot of moving pieces, and I don't know how it would actually, like if you could actually ever get 3 teams in a room and get a trade like that done. I do think that the Clippers and Kings though make a lot of sense as like trade partners, and I think that there's a multitude of different trades that would work out between the 2 teams. It's just whether or not they're talking to each other at this point. And
Yeah.
for me, I think the Kings, like, I don't care about getting draft capital back. I just don't want to send draft capital out.
Right.
If you can pick up a second round pick or you can pick up a late first round pick in one of these moves, that's fine. But realistically, I think moving this project ahead a year, trying to move it to 2026, not 2027, would be paramount for this organization because you can't just give up and just be bad for 5 years and think that Kings fans are going to be waiting around, especially with the bloated ticket prices that they're currently charging. So
Well,
it's a tough look.
and to that point, like I think also not knowing totally where Scott Perry stands on bringing back contracts beyond next year. Are you willing to go to, like you said, do you expedite 27 and move it to 26, but realizing that some of these players are signed through 28? Are you willing to bring in those type of contracts? You know, I certainly, for the right person, absolutely. I think there's, a fascination for certain with John Morant, and I think rightfully so. Whether people like John Morant or don't, like, just setting him aside, like, at least it's a pillar and it's a piece that you can build around. Zach Levine is not the piece you can build around. Like, he's a guy who makes a ton of money. He's paid like one of those, but with respect to him, if he's your best player, you're not very good. So yeah, I'm curious as to see what Scott's philosophy would be in trying to bring in salary that extends beyond 27.
Yeah, I'm intrigued too because I think there are three guys that are either available or going to be available in Ja, in LaMelo, and in Trey Young. And all of those players like have the potential to make you better. They also have the potential just to be the same exact thing you are and just be blah. And
Can you
now
rank them?
you're that
Can you
with
rank
like a whole lot more money.
who would, of those three, who you like most and who you would stay away from? So one being, yeah, I'd put. You want me to go first?
Yeah, because I think I've been talked into John Morant on occasion, or at least talked myself. I don't think I can talk myself into LaMelo. So I think it would be here. I'll go first.
Okay.
It would be Trey, followed by Ja, followed by LaMelo. I think.
Trey being the one you'd most desire.
Yeah, of the
Oh,
group, and I would have to like, and even that I'm not sold,
yeah.
but at least the guy can average 24 and 10. Um, you know, at least I know that for the most part he plays hard. He's just not a good a good defensive player. I don't know.
I would be. We both have the same number. No, I would be John Morant number one, Lamelo two, Trey Young. I would skip three and put him five. Like, I am not a Trey Young fan at all, so I would
Okay.
have to, yeah. But so
Well,
that's
I
how I would.
mean, I got to be honest. I'm not a Lamelo fan either, and I'm
Right.
not a Jaw fan either. And honestly, if we keep talking about pillars and culture and all that stuff, the things they painted across the top, I got to be honest, man. Trey
I
Young
know.
fits those pillars a lot more than the other two. The other two don't fit the pillars, and I don't think that LaMelo Ball can change the culture of your team for the good, and I don't think that John Morant can as either.
Yeah, and for
Whether
the
or not
record,
Trey can, I don't know, and I'm not a big Trey Young fan either.
I know we just ranked them 1 through 3, but, in terms of who would you most be interested in, the reality is, for me, and I'm just speaking for me, John Morant would be the only one that I'd be interested for the way this team is currently built.
Oof. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I
Probably.
wouldn't I wouldn't touch LaMelo Ball, and I wouldn't touch Trey Young, with the way this team is currently, I just I'd punt on LaMelo too. I wouldn't be interested. It
Okay.
wouldn't be a starting point for me anymore. The way they've already kind of gone down certain paths, we've seen how things have worked. Um, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, yeah, I think the only way you're doing that is if you're looking at the contracts and it's not that much of a difference between if you can move a Zach Levine for one of these guys that make a bunch of
Right.
money and you're like, okay, it's a short term thing. Even you could trade Zach for for Trey Young right now, and Trey Young it has a $46 million player option for next year. He could opt out of that and become a free agent. You can also try to work out a contract with him and an extension and see what if he's interested, but at least he's a couple of years younger than Zach Levine. LaMelo is way younger than all of these guys. And so maybe that's something, but I just don't see him being part of a winning team.
No.
And so that's a problem. So yeah, it should be interesting. I think the Kings are up against like there's a lot going on here. It's not nearly as cut and dry as hey, just trade that guy or trade that guy. It's not going to be easy to reboot this thing. All right, we gotta get out of here quick today. Sean's got stuff going on. I've got stuff going on. Sean, do you have any final thoughts?
Causeway Classic is this week, and it's probably for the last time.
Ooh.
I don't want to say ever, but I think Sac State and Davis need to figure it out, even if it's a brief hiatus. Figure it out. Like, I know one's going to FBS, the other one's not thrilled with that. Or excuse me, one has desires to go to FBS and is likely to do that, even if independent. That's, I mean, leaving the Big Sky, all these things. Like, it's just, it's just crazy. But don't kill the rivalry. And it seems like UC Davis doesn't want to talk to Sac State at all in regards to it. I understand to a degree why. Maybe get through the season, see if cooler heads can prevail, see where you're at. I think a lot of, Sac State's hype and momentum that they were trying to do to go to becoming this, top level
Football
D1
powerhouse,
program.
yeah.
Yeah. I think a little, you still don't have a stadium. You might have something brewing with Cal Expo at a certain point, but again, just beyond all that, just keep the Causeway Classic. You can still make it happen.
Okay, so I don't know the politics of it. I, of course, am a Davis guy,
Yeah.
but I could see Davis being, like a higher level. I mean, a higher learning focused campus. That's what they always have been. It's why they're ranked like number 6 among public schools in the nation as far as education. That's where their ranking is. So it's an incredible school for education. I could also see them not getting into the NIL business and looking at Sac State and going, okay, like, look, it's fine. We'll play against you here and there, but we're not going to do this yearly where you're spending, 10 to 15 million bucks a year on players and we're not. And, so like that doesn't really feel all that equal in the grand scheme of things, even though they right now have very, very similar records on the season.
But they do want to boost their athletic program, and they're investing in their athletic program. Davis is,
Davis, yeah.
and they're moving up. They're going into all these other sports except for football, going to different conferences. So that is that's encouraging. They're doing their own thing, and they're doing it in their way, which is something to be said. But
Yeah.
I don't think that you have to throw out the Causeway Classic to do that. But
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
talking
see.
from a football standpoint. So
Yeah, hopefully not. Okay, final thoughts from me. Let's see. This is tough. Like I get the angst of Kings fans. I feel for the angst of Kings fans. I got to be honest. There are games where I don't want to turn on the TV and sit here and cover it from home or even go down to the arena. Like it's not fun watching horrible basketball and looking at your team and realizing it's the second oldest in the NBA, and then looking at your salary and realizing that a lot of these players aren't tradable. That's not a good position to be in. But remember that this will change eventually, and that we will move to a different era. And you don't want to give up your fandom just because you're back at the 1991 Sacramento Kings or the 2011 Sacramento Kings. Like dropping back this far sucks and it doesn't feel good, and I get it, but that doesn't mean that you stop being a fan. So good luck as a Kings fan, because I think this thing gets darker before it gets sunnier, and it's just kind of the way that this season's playing out, which is not shocking, but that it's this bad this quick is, if that makes sense. Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. If you don't mind, if you're watching here on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, give us a rating review, jump on board with the Kings Beat, go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber, all of that stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Brennan will be back next week. We'll
No, he
try
won't.
to, yes, he will. Yes, he will.
He's gone
He'll
for
be
good.
back. He's not. Sean's just being a curmudgeon like always. So for KCRA 3, Sean Cunningham. I'm James Ham, Kings Satter for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We'll see you very soon.
No candle.